Hello, welcome to another Gundam Operation 2 video. That is the new suit, the Hyaku Shiki Kai ground type, also known as the land combat Hyaku Shiki Kai, which I think I'll just be calling it the LC for land combat, because I'm more familiar with that name rather than the ground type. And yeah, welcome to another initial thoughts. And I got two matches here for you. This first one is going to be actually my last match with the suit on Arctic base. It's going to be a regular match. And the second match is actually going to be my first ever match playing it. Literally my first ever match on a ace match on City Ruins. There we go. I was about to say Abandoned City, which it's actually called Deserted City. I keep calling it Abandoned, but no, this is going to be City Ruins. And yeah, we'll see how we do in these two matches, both solo. And yeah, let's get right into it. Let's start off with the stats here. This is a 600 support. You have 17,500 health with 30 ballistic and 32 beam resistance. You have 10 melee resistance, 30 range strength, 20 melee strength, 135 movement speed with 190 boost speed, 60 thruster gauge, and 66 turning speed. And for slots, you have 12 close, 17 mid, and 15 long range slots. First thing that kind of sticks out here to me immediately is that you do have 190 movement speed, or boost speed, my bad. That is really great to have for a support. That means it's among one of the fastest supports in the game now, thank God. So I do appreciate that we now have, we're starting to get a little bit faster here with some of our supports, so I'm really glad about that. You do have plenty of, for a support, you do have some high resistances, obviously. You got 30 and 32. Only 10 melee resistance, which is, typical for a support like this. You can build it really tanky, but you have weak melee resistance, which, onto the slots here, I do have some different builds. One is focused on range damage, mostly range damage, and a little bit of some defenses, mostly towards beams, because I want to play a little bit more mid-range with it. And funnily enough, this first match on Arctic Base, I wanted to play a more melee-oriented suit, but I ended up kind of just poking at people more so. Although I did get some, a few melee hits in, right? But, yeah, I had a more balanced damage build. I had like 40, I want to say 44 range strength, and then somewhere in the 40s, 45 maybe melee strength. And still focus a little bit on some beam resistance. And I think just 20 melee resistance. Not going to help out too much against raids, but maybe a little bit against some generals, right? Unless it's like an Atlas, but hey, at least we dunk on the Atlas this match, so don't have to worry about them there. But yeah, so you can definitely do some builds. I think you can probably put some reload parts because of all the the ammo weapons that you have on this suit. You can probably do some thruster gauge stuff because this is a ground compatibility suit as well. And yeah, let's get right onto the weapons now. Starting off, you have the Hyaku Shiki Kai ground type BRRG. Jesus Christ. With 2,000 damage, 4 rounds, and 350 range. This is a basic stunning weapon. It's a beam rifle that you shoot somebody with it, and it just stuns them. So yeah, you got a nice, just basic instant stun. Not like a ton of damage, but it can probably give you something decent if you build up your range strength, and you are, if you're fighting generals, as you should be as a support, right? Getting those stuns in. Next primary weapon is the Hyaku Shiki Kai ground type beam saber, which is 2,300 damage. The neutral is a slash forward, and the downswing is a slash followed up by a stab. So it's a two-part downswing that will get you, I think, around 3,000 damage, depending on your build, right? If you got melee or not. You are a hovering suit, so you can definitely use that to your advantage, to where you can kind of slide in and maybe get a hit in before, help kind of catch people off by surprise, And you do have balancers as well, so that will help you go into melee, especially with the amount of stuns that you have on this suit. Plenty of opportunities for you to try and go in for melee if you're looking to do that, right? Of course, you don't want to do that against a whole-ass enemy team or like 2 raids, but or a raid even, unless you're really, really confident. But yeah, that's still something to think about in the terms of like gameplay, right? So yeah, pretty nice melee, pretty decent, just basic stunning weapons. So now we're on to the secondary weapons now. And starting off, you have the head-mounted Vulcan Modify, which is 700 damage, 60 rounds, and 150 range. Now, these are just kind of basic Vulcans. They're not like the GPO series Vulcans or anybody. I think even the they buffed the Hyaku Shikis, the regular Hyaku Shikis, to be a really fast stunning Vulcan, right? No, this one does not. I say really fast, at least a decent amount of stun accumulation. This suit doesn't have like really any kind of strong stun accumulation on the Vulcans. If you're going to use it by itself, you'll have to take up nearly all your ammo, which Yeah, you're better off just using any of your other weapons. You might want to use these Vulcans just for really low health enemies, or other stuff like taking out pilots. So yeah, they work fine as just Vulcan weapons, right? So yeah, nothing bad there. Just don't use it as you would like for like GP units, right? And hey, now we're on to the next thing here. Just straight up just called mid-range beam cannon. They really want you to know when you want to use this, right? So yeah, mid-range beam cannon, which is 2,200 damage, 85% heat rate, and 450 range. And yeah, a lot of range on this. It is a standstill to fire though, and yeah, it will provide another stun. It does have a decent ready up time, so you probably want to start off with this weapon to stun with, and then combo into your other instant stun weapons, right? So I mean, hey, if you can go into your beam rifle after this, that's already a stun lock, so that's pretty nice. And yeah, really good for poking. So yeah, it's just it's a competent weapon, right? So there we go. Next weapon here is the 3-tube missile pod Incendiary, which is 1,000 damage per missile with 3 rounds and 400 range. And this is actually a pretty great weapon I've used. I believe, yeah, it will take 2 of the 3 missiles to stun, and to help make that happen, they have reticle based tracking on them, and they're pretty damn good actually. I mean, the base damage is 1,000, and it's a ballistic weapon as well. Some of the people you'll see me hitting, specifically the generals, you can definitely see some of those hits were like over 1,500. I think there's even a 1,600 damage shot at one point. So imagine hitting 3 of those, and not only that, but it's also incendiary rounds. So each of those missiles, if you hit just one, there will be ticks of damage, damage over time. And for each second that passes, they'll take 200 damage, just flat 200 damage. It doesn't matter what the resistances are, they'll take 200 damage 10 times in a row. So that will be a total of 2,000 damage. But obviously, if somebody dodge rolls, they can get rid of that effect. I think even if they step in water, but obviously there's not a whole lot of maps where you can do that. So they have to dodge roll. So if you're hitting a support, they're going to be taking that damage. Be careful if you're downswinging somebody or somebody's on the ground when you use it, because they get up, they have that invulnerability, so you're kind of making it doesn't really work at that point. But yeah, that's still pretty nice to have, where yeah, you can shoot somebody for, let's say you hit a general for 3,000 damage. If they're not doing anything to get rid of that burn damage, they take another extra 2,000, so they just took 5,000 damage, which is pretty nice. And you saw against I believe the Atlas Gundam at the beginning of the Arctic base match, it did whittle him down low enough to where he was at 1 health, and I just finished him with the Vulcans. That's another thing about the incendiary rounds, is that you can't actually kill somebody with the burn damage. You can only lower them down to the lowest possible health point, and you have to use something else to finish them off. Can't use just the burn to kill, unfortunately. But I guess they don't want people to cheese situations where they hit somebody, and let's say like a support or some kind of raid or general that can't dodge roll, and then they just burn to death, right? They don't have to engage him anymore. But so I'm guessing that's why they do that. But yeah, just keep that in mind. Have your Vulcans ready or something to shoot them with. So yeah, pretty nice set of weapons. Honestly, probably with how fast they are to stun. Again, it takes 2 or 3 shots to stun, and they do track. You can start off with this, then go into your other stun weapons to initiate at least. Again, go into more stun locks, which is pretty nice actually. Pretty nice. Yeah, next weapon here is the shoulder grenade launcher, which is 400 damage per shot with 6 rounds and 250 range. These are just I kind of use these as just damage after individual stuns, or if I'm fighting a suit with damage control, I can use my all of my fire missiles and then start pelting them with this instead, or this afterwards. It does take all 6 rounds to stun, so it's not the best by themselves. So that's why I mentioned, like, I kind of like to use them for added damage, or again, fighting damage control suits after using the fire missiles. So yeah, it's fine for just do that little bit extra damage. I think there's enough weapons on this suit to where I'm fine with the grenades being the way they are. So yeah, I'm fine with it. You also have the next weapon here, the beam rifle railgun. 1,800 damage with 2 rounds and 800 range. Holy shit. No. 350 range. There we go. And yeah, it's a pretty fast to ready up weapon, and it provides another instant stun for you to have. It's also a ballistic weapon, and it does penetrate. It does not heavy stagger, unlike some other railguns, which to be honest, I think the only railgun that heavy staggers is what, the I think just the desert gems, because I don't think the other, like the atlases, I don't think heavy staggers. But yeah, it is a penetration weapon. It does do some decent damage to follow up after another stun, and since it readies up so fast, you can easily use this after any of your other instant stuns. So yeah, I find it a really effective weapon, and it can really help you in being kind of aggressive towards generals and whatnot, right? Because of how fast it is to follow up after any of your other stuns. So pretty nice, pretty nice. And finally, you do have a shield. You have the Hyaku Shiki Kai ground type shield, which is 4,000 damage. It's considered a large size shield. And finally, for skills, you have radar level 2, scope level 2, you have observational data link, you have frontline support system. I believe that is 5% off of your timer whenever there's other teammates that have the skill. Well, I guess, combined with their their frontline support system as well. You do have anti-jamming level 2, so that will counter, I believe, suits like the Bolonok, the Ewak Jagan. I think the Mark IV Gundam also has a way to do jamming, but yeah, you do have answers for those suits, which is, it's nice to have, right? You do have quick boost level 3, you have shock absorbers level 3, you have balancers, as we mentioned before, really good for your melee combos, or at least going into melee. You have forced injectors level 2, so you can boost back and forth rapidly. It takes less thruster gauge off, or less consumption off your thruster gauge. There we go. And finally, you have optimized cooling, so that will take 10% off of your boost gauge whenever you're jumping. So yeah, that is it for the Hyaku Shiki LC. And yeah, let's get right into the pros and cons. Starting off with the cons. I mean, obviously, you're a support, you don't have a dodge roll, you don't have any of those other defense tools, so I guess that'll just be the first obvious con, is that, yeah, you're very vulnerable. You have 10 melee resistance, which I guess, that can be another con, so be careful around melee-oriented suits, even generals, Another con for this suit is that you do have some pretty easily breakable legs, so I would suggest at least putting some leg armor on. I forgot to mention that when building parts, but that I do think that's probably something you should care about, unless you want to have your legs almost broken after one engagement if you fuck up somewhere, right? So yeah, I do recommend putting on some leg armor. Anything else for this suit? Some of the weapons do take a little bit of ready up time, right? The shoulder cannon, the mid-range beam cannon, my bad, that does have a little bit to ready up, and so does the 3-tube missile pod incendiaries. So those should be weapons you want to start off with first before going into your other weapons. And honestly, that's really kind of it I can think of for the LC here. Which, yeah, I guess we'll go into the pros now. The pros are that you do have some pretty nice weapons here. You have a really nice amount of instant stuns. You have 3 instant stuns that can vary at different ranges as well. I mean, both the beam rifle and the railgun are 350 range, and the mid-range beam cannon has 450 range, so you can do some pokes into again some good stun locks. You have the 3-tube missile pod incendiaries, which I think are just really great. It's a really great weapon, honestly. Sometimes I'll even start off with that weapon, since it only takes 2 missiles to stun. Just get stunned that way, go into beam rifle, into rail cannon, and if I'm not close enough, I can always just whip out the mid-range beam cannon, and then restart the process over to going back to beam rifle, and then into the rail cannon, right? And then even go into melee. So it actually really helps out this suit in being just really aggressive, as you saw earlier in that Arctic base match against that Atlas Gundam, just really putting on the pressure on him. Really fantastic for just pushing with your team, and just, again, it's just a really, I was kind of surprised at how aggressive I can be playing this suit. Now, obviously, you don't want to be too aggressive, because you might end up in situations that you can't really get out of, because, well, you're a support with 10 melee resistance. So do be careful how you do approach enemies, of course, obviously. But yeah, you can be pretty aggressive, and you definitely could fit a bunch of different roles. And again, to go along with your weapons being really good, you do have a lot of stun versatility, which I already mentioned that I mentioned that like 5 different times already. The missile pod, the incendiary rounds, those will stun really fast, so you have a way to stop suits, with maneuver armor, which there are a few at 600. One of them is the MP double Zeta, which, oh yeah, that's a really strong suit right now. So it's pretty nice that you have that. Now, if memory serves right, it might have damage control or not. I can't remember exactly because I haven't focused on 600 in a little bit. You know, it's all about 650 and 700, trying to get those Psycho Doga matches and the some high new stuff, right? If it did have damage control, then hey, you can throw in some of your other weapons, or you know, maybe if the suit has stopped moving, you have again multiple instant stuns to fire at that person. You have different ways to keep somebody on their toes, and you do have ways to counter certain suits, even some raids, right? Because some raids don't have damage control and they're boosting towards you. Well, hey, you have a way to counter them pretty effectively, because again, those missiles can track. They can do you know, it's nice, right? So yeah, I pretty much just listed like a few other pros there, but I kind of didn't really say that. I was kind of going underneath that first pro of the you have nice weapons, right? So I guess, you know, you can kind of spread that out to 2 more points if you want to, or 1 other point, whichever. But yeah, I think that'll be it for the Hyaku Shiki LC. And I gotta say, this is a pretty, not only is it a pretty fun suit to play, but it's also pretty damn solid. Like, I haven't had really any bad matches with the suit. Now, I mean, I've had losses, don't get me wrong, but I haven't had like matches where I've just been getting like constant 10th places or anything, right? I've had some really nice seconds and firsts. I mean, the second match that for this video was my first match ever playing the suit, and I was really surprised, like, oh damn, I can actually I feel like I can do some stuff with this suit, right? And I'm very glad that we have a suit that's kind of like this. Now, 600 does have strong supports. So the land combat Hyaku Shiki did have competition going in, and I'm happy to say that I think it does well at separating itself from those guys, and being really good. You know, you have stuff like the Xanthos, the Jesta Cannon, the Zaku 4. I can't remember what people feel about the Full Armor Gundam Mark III right now, but you know, just to list some, right? And then the suit comes along, and hey, it's another solid support for 600. Definitely better than the than the Rigazid, right? So there's that. But yeah, it's definitely a again, it's a really fun suit. I do recommend you guys roll for this. It's really solid. Like, there's not too many downsides that really would drag the suit down. You know, I guess, you know, comparing it to some past suits like the Nightingale, where, you know, maybe the size is really terrible for that suit, right? He gets it killed a lot. Well, the Shiki doesn't really have any noticeable weaknesses besides, you know, some lower leg health and just obvious support weaknesses, right? But you have some really good pros, a really nice, solid gameplay going on with this suit. I can definitely see somebody picking this and just doing as well as they could, like with other similar suits, like all the other Hyaku Shiki guys. You know, all of them have been pretty solid so far. So I'm glad to see that we got another one that's also really fun to play, really good to play too. So yeah, that's gonna be in this video. If you guys enjoyed this video, leave a like, subscribe if you want. I really appreciate it. And you know, type up in the comment section how you feel about the Hyaku Shiki ground type, or Hyaku Shiki Kai ground type, aka the land combat type Hyaku Shiki Kai. Do you like it? Do you hate it? And well, yeah, I actually do quite like playing this suit. Now, it's not like my favorite suit ever, but I can definitely, I feel like I can cook with this, and I feel like I can see other people cooking with this as well. I think it's a pretty damn good suit. I do recommend rolling for it. It is a 2-star though, and I know some people want to save their tokens for higher star suits, or like 4 stars as well. So if you want to do that, that's fine by me. But yeah, just telling you now, this is a pretty nice suit, pretty good suit, pretty fun. I feel like I can do some different roles with this, either passive or aggressive. And yeah, that'll be it, and I will see you guys later. Bye.